everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So in this AFK journey video, I'm going to provide my 3 best teams for the Crumbled Giant Golem for the Desolate Grounds Battle Drill run. I'll base it off my free-to-play account in the PTR server because my main account has already cleared the boss. And I cannot show you guys the teams because the boss have been resetted, so I have to use this account to showcase. So for today's video, right, I'll be focusing on the mechanics of the boss. I'll showcase some of my guild's top damage contributors as well as their team builds, and then talk about the rationale behind the building of teams, right? The rationale behind the usage of certain units. And more importantly, before I start, I'm pretty sure somebody out there is going to say that this account is not free-to-play friendly. This guy is not meant to just target the free-to-play players. It's to provide everyone with the knowledge of the team builds, the rationale behind building certain teams against this boss, as well as the rationale behind using certain units against this boss specifically. So I'll be focusing more on the mechanics, the different things that you guys want to keep a lookout for, and you guys can try and error with your own account with the best units you have. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'll start with the mechanics you want to know. So for this boss itself, right, generally the boss have 3 AoE skill, right? Colossal Sweep, we have Nova Burst, we have Radiant Surge. So all these are all AoE skills where the boss will sweep the whole map. So obviously the idea is to survive for as long as possible, but there's one thing that's really important for this boss specifically is that the Radiant Surge, which is the ultimate, can be reflected if the target that it fires at is shielded. So this is where you want to run at least 1 or 2 units that can shield your team, because being shielded protects at least the unit being shielded from the damage of this ultimate as well as the stun or the knockdown from this ability. So this ability sort of knocks your units down. I don't think the damage hits really hard. It's more like the disruptiveness because your unit is not doing anything after it's disabled by this skill. So you need a shielder in your team to prevent a full team like knocked down by this skill. Okay, and another thing about shield that is benefited greatly from this run or this battle drill run is the defense master as well as the wild might. So over here you guys see we have 4 different buffs, which are 2 times defense master and 2 times wild might, and all these skills, right, extends the shield duration for all allies and enemies by 50%. So the second part is, I'll say, applies to everybody, right, before this patch. But they added this extends shield duration. So having these 4 buffs active, right, means that your shield duration is increased by 200%. Effectively, if you have at least 1 or 2 shielders in your team, and the shield is not melted by the enemy, your team will be perma-shielded. So shielding is actually really effective in terms of keeping your team alive because it not only deflects the ultimate of the boss, at the same time it also increases the overall HP for your team. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm going to start with the 3 teams recommendation for my own account. So for this account itself, right, it's not exactly like a paid account. So the units that I have are pretty much my strongest units, and I'll explain the rationale behind the team builds to let you guys know why is it the case, why am I building certain units, and why am I using certain units in this manner. Okay, so the very first team is also the strongest team, is the mage team, which consists of Elsa, right, together with Odie, and it's further supported by the likes of Lucius as well as Rowan. So the reason why I'm running Lucius is obviously for his AoE shield. So clumping up all the units together, as you guys can see over there, is able to allow Lucius to shield everyone, which will deflect the ultimate. And then we have the 2 magical damage dealer in the form of Elsa and Odie, further buffed by Smokey as well as Rowan to keep the team alive and allow for more skill usage. And lastly, I'll be ending off with the Crescent spell for maximum damage. So this is my very first team, which is a hybrid of Light Bearer as well as Mauler for a mage team composition. So with Lucius in the team, not only is he a shielder, this unit also has the seasonal skill, which is Heart of Unity. So let's say if you don't have Lucius at a really high tier, it's perfectly fine as well, because Lucius' skill or Lucius' role in this team is for his ultimate to provide allies with all the shield, with the ability to build up additional shield as well as heal your teammate. So you don't actually need the EX weapon for him to be effective. So this is a case where Lucius need not be at a really high tier, where you just need him to be tanky enough to survive, to shield your teammate, and if he's backed by enough support such as Smokey as well as Rowan, he will be more than sufficient in doing his role. So your carry will obviously be Odie. The more stats you have on your carries or your damage dealer, obviously the more damage you will deal on the boss itself. So Smokey and Rowan, I don't think I need to explain too much. So that will be team number 1. Let's showcase this team damage. and then talk about the damage distribution, as well as let you guys see the mechanics. So as you guys see over here, right, I will go at 2 times because because there will be 3 battles I want to showcase, but I think I'll start it slow first to showcase to you guys what are the mechanics in play, so you guys can understand why the team is built in this way. So as you guys can see over here, right, when the boss is using the AoE attack, right, it deals decent damage, but it's not sufficient to kill your team. So survivor is not that important in terms of you don't need that many, I'll say, defensive units, right? This is the ultimate where the boss is unleashing the laser. Oh wait, haven't yet. So the boss ultimate bar is filling up on top, as you guys can see. So this is where the boss will use the laser, and this is where shielding from Lucius is going to be really helpful in maximizing your damage. So right here, let's go into 2 times. So the laser sword is not so scary, as you guys can see. Okay, so this is where the boss launches the ultimate. So this is Radiant Surge. Okay, so right here the boss charging up, and as you guys can see, right, our dear Elsa over here sort of got knocked down a little bit because unfortunately for my positioning, Elsa is outside of Lucius' shield range, so she's not protected from that skill. But at least the other 4 of my units are still consistently doing what they need to do, ensuring maximum damage output. So from here onwards, right, this is where I'll say the battle gets slightly repetitive. Unfortunately for me, because of my Elsa's positioning, she killed herself because she couldn't be shielded by Lucius. But I'm gonna let the battle run it 2 times so that you guys can just know the mechanics. So the whole battle becomes like the boss is just going to use everything, and then I have my Lucius as well as my supports protecting my whole team, and then I'm just going to dish out damage continuously from there. So backed by this Crescent spell, I'm able to maximize my DPS of this magical team. So one thing which I think could be done better is the introduction of a better positioning for Elsa. I'm still trying to figure out a way where I'll say like her positioning could be better, because I put her here, right? So the thing about Elsa which I don't really like is that she likes to roll to this awkward position all the way on the right side of the boss, which is very weird because like the boss is just in front of her, where she's supposed to roll in front of the boss and then just deal damage from there, but she always likes to roll to the right hand side. So what could have been done better, number 1, could be placing Elsa maybe slightly towards the back, so maybe she don't roll that far away from Lucius' shield range. So this is if you're using Elsa. If you don't have Elsa, another unit I can recommend you guys using is obviously Satrana. Satrana is an amazing addition to this team if you want to play around the magical damage theme. But if you don't have Satrana built up, you can obviously use Merrily in Satrana's place. So that is one substitute that you guys can use specifically for this team setup. Okay, so with that, right, I'm gonna end off this replay, right? So the damage output from this team is as such, right, 2,400 million, so about 2,500 million or 2.5 billion, whatever. Okay, so next one, team number 2. So team number 2, right, since I already used up the previous units, I'll be using a new round of units. So I'll be building a physical team with Merrily as the core. So the reason why I put Merrily in the front is because I'm gonna use Entendra over here. And Entendra has an ability, right, skill number 2, which shields the frontmost ally. So in terms of the frontmost ally, is the ally on the most frontmost position at the start of the battle, which is Merrily over here. So throughout the whole battle, right, Entendra will be protecting Merrily, will be shooting her, so she will not be debuffed by the boss's ultimate, and this will let her maximize her damage output. Then I'll also be reusing Kruger, so Kruger for the physical defense down, and Kruger himself having the shield ability, which is really helpful to keep himself healthy and do damage and debuffing at the same time. And before Merrily gets her true damage off, she deals physical damage. So this physical defense down from Kruger is going to be very helpful. And then the 4th unit, I'm running Reese. So Reese, as the name suggests, has risen to popularity recently due to the massive increase in damage output for this unit. And the synergy that this unit does with Kruger is really insane. Both are maulers, both are physical side of things, and Reese benefits from the physical defense down from Kruger. So this is the 4 unit. So depending on how much survival I want, I will use Corinne to maximize the shielding as well as the fractional bonus, because my last team is probably my weakest team. I'll explain why, because of the lack of units. So this is the physical variant. So for this one, I'll be running the quick blade spell for maximum damage. So without further ado, let's do this run. Okay, so just for this one, I'll just run at 2 times. So over here, right, as you guys can see, Merrily will be sort of permanently shielded because Antandra will be shielding her based on the positioning that I put her in at the start of battle. So my Merrily will be protected in most times. So there will be times where she might not have a shield. So I can only pray that Antandra shields Merrily at the correct time to protect her from the laser. So right here, the shield came in just in the nick of time, which protected her really nicely. So behind the back, right, our dear Rise is shooting non-stop. So one thing about Rise that's really good is that this unit's second skill is able to allow the unit to negate control effects. So I'll run through the skill set of Rise later on. But this physical attack team, I'll say it's probably less damage compared to the mage variant because OD just hits so hard in terms of bossing. But I'll say this team does its job really well, at least based on the units that I have right now. So Merrily as well as Reese died, but nonetheless we still managed to do a lot of damage. So right here we did 2100 million. So this is the damage distribution, a very even distribution of damage. So just now I mentioned about Reese's second skill. So this ability allows this unit to gain control immunity when taking control effect. So even if the ultimate of the boss does land on this unit will actually be able to shrug it off and continue to move on the map to do damage on the boss itself. So really good unit, specifically with the new season, right? Because not only did you get a really powerful seasonal skill, the whole kit of this unit just synergized really well with the improvement of Maulers as a whole. So this is team number 2, physical team, same thing, Light Bearer as well as Mauler variant. Okay, so the very last team, I'll say it's pretty much my best units remaining. So I'll remove this one. We'll use Torrent. I'll protect Torrent with the likes of Scalita because my Scalita doesn't have a shield after she comes down. So Scalita has this shield ability which protects my team, and once she comes down she becomes a damage dealer. Then we have Iron, then we have Brian. So for Brian's case, unfortunately for Brian, he won't be very much shielded in a sense because there's no way for me to protect this unit. Maybe I will link Brian to, maybe I'll no, but Brian has the ability to revive himself from the EX weapon skill. So I think it's fine if I have Damien to sort of heal him back up. So this is the second team I have. I think you probably have better options out there. Maybe with a full Light Bearer comp, maybe with Floribel with the shielding ability. Or I'll say like just a full physical Wilders comp. For example, Floribel with Laika. Maybe with the likes of other physical attackers to go into the mix. That will be really good. Or maybe putting Corin in this team for the shielding effect as well. So the third team I'll say is probably the weaker team, right? The damage output will be much lower for this one. But for this case, I'll be running our dear same thing, I'll be running Crescent Spell because most of the attackers are mage centric. So without further ado, let's start the battle. Okay, so this team is probably the weaker one of the bunch, because there's no particular team to it. It's basically like my strongest team right now. So Scalita, before she comes down, is able to shield the ally. Iron himself has a way to generate shield, so Iron will be able to continuously deal damage. And then I have Brian there for the magical attack to complement Iron's magical defense down. So if you don't have Brian built up, you can obviously use Arden, but I think Arden is a lot weaker in a single target situation. So if you ask me, right, like what's a better choice outside of Brian, that would be Carolina, because Carolina still does pretty decent damage overall, even though it's not an AoE setting compared to Arden. So between Arden and Carolina, I'll say Carolina is the better one. But if you want the best single target mage damage dealer, it will probably be Brian for this team composition. So over here, much less damage, but I'll say pretty decent damage output. So this is the damage distribution for the team just now. For Brian's case, you guys can see this unit is an amazing single target damage dealer, and this is only him at EX5. So if I do get him to EX10, his damage output will definitely increase tremendously. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have Brian, you can obviously use Carolina. You can still get the 3-2 buff for the team because you're running Torrent on the front line, and Torrent is there for the protection for your unit as well as the debuff as well as additional damage. Even though he's a physical attacker, but I think Torrent's seasonal skill as well as his second ability, which allows you to increase the damage taken by the enemy, is just so invaluable that he goes really well in any teams that he go into. So that's pretty much it for this team setup. If you don't have Skalita, just run any of the mage attackers out there. You can obviously also run Niru as well if you are a Niru investor, because Niru is also a magical damage dealer. He's also a healer which can increase the sustain of your team. So other than that, obviously any other mage damage dealer or any other magical defense debuffer work in this team setup as well. So that is for this team setup number 3. So next I will showcase some of the team builds of my guild mates in terms of higher damage output and talk about the damage distribution and the team build idea. So this guy over here ran the merely OD setup. So this idea is very similar to my very first team setup where I run Lucius with OD, but for that team, because I decide to keep Merrily for my second physical team, therefore I ran Elsa as the secondary carry. So this is one team build that you guys can definitely run. I guess most people should have Merrily invested, most people should have OD invested, so this team works really well. Let's take a look at another team at a 2700 range. So this is the I'll say standard Dream Realm team. So this is with Reyna. So one thing that you guys can definitely use in your team is definitely Reyna. So the reason why I didn't run Reyna in this team or this setup is because I don't have Reyna at Mythic Plus for this account. So I'm not running Reyna. But if you have Reyna, Reyna is definitely a good addition to slot into any of the teams, because Reyna's ability to just increase the damage output on the boss itself is invaluable no matter which mode that he is in. So if you have Reyna at M+, use him. I don't have him at M+, so I decided to not use him because I have other better debuffers at higher tiers for myself. So this is the, I would say, pretty standard Dream Realm team, right? I think with additional healing support from Damien, because I think he might have some issues with survival. That's why he threw in a Damien over here. So this one, another one, right? So this is the full Mauler team. So this is another variant. So I'll say pretty much the max damage team will be one which includes OD, because OD just hits so hard. So you guys can see using Antandra to shield. Right, let's take a look at this one. So this is using a full Mauler setup with Shakir. So that's one way you can do it as well, running a full Mauler. You can even use Brutus, although Brutus doesn't synergize really well with OD. So that's one thing which I think is kind of sad. You can use Shakir in a sense. Shakir will go very well when Elsa goes in the front line, and because for him, I think he pretty much sent in OD with Reyna. So let's just take a look at the replay. So over here, yeah, he sent in OD, right, with Reyna. So right here, when Shakir gets the wolf form off, right, the aura is able to benefit OD, the aura is able to benefit Elsa, but one thing that this team lacks is the shielding, which you guys can see from the battle itself, right? Like the units get stunned a lot because the damage is not reflected. So when the boss uses the ultimate is not reflected, so there's a lot of downtime for this team. So what I would improve upon it, right, is to remove Shakir and use Lucius in his place, because Lucius AoE shield is just so good for this boss. And like Lucius buff from the season skill is also insane for damage boosting. So if let's say, right, you have the 4 units OD, Elsa, Smokey and Reyna, then you have a low tier Lucius, you can definitely run Lucius, because Smokey will probably be able to keep Lucius alive from the heals, and then Lucius himself is pretty tanky with the shield for the team, so that will definitely increase your team's damage output. So that's for the team showcase. Okay, so let's go into, let's see whether or not there's other interesting builds that you guys might want to know. So this is the OD build. So there's another guy here. So same thing. So this one runs Vala. So Vala is a pretty good damage dealer as well. When the boss is below 50%, you can definitely use Vala for the boss fight. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So yeah, pretty much everybody's running like some form of OD variants. Okay. Yeah, so this is the OD variant. So Laika is also pretty good, but Laika is probably better with a physical teams. So if you kind of want to build around like a Wilder with somebody else with Leica, you kind of want to build a physical team around Leica, because Leica is a pretty decent damage dealer as well. And not only that, the season skill from this unit also makes this unit a lot better in bosses. So this is one unit that you guys can definitely consider if you do have Leica built up. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this showcase, right? Those are the 3 best teams I have. So this is team number 1. Best damage so far, full mage team with Lucius and Rowan support. And then the second best team is the physical attack team, as you guys can see over here. So Merrily Rise backed by Kruger debuff, Corin shield as well as Antandra shield for the full fractional bonus. And then lastly, the third team, which is my weakest team over here, that is the mage team with Brian carry as well as Iron debuff and his own shielding itself. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more AFK journey videos from the channel. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.